All Dark Souls bosses ranked from worst to best. 26 of them including the DLC. This is tough. It took me an hour, maybe a bit more to do it, because I had it on my mind, but I actually sat down probably for a total of an hour trying to rank them, writing them down, thinking about the boss fights, thinking about how it was. So if you disagree, that's fine. You can say your ranking if you want, but this is the closest to what I thought was correct. And yeah, hope you agree and enjoy. At 26, we've got Capra Demon. Now this guy's kind of trash. He's kind of just a wee side boss. After you kill him, it doesn't actually open up any areas. He drops the depth key, but he doesn't actually do anything. Now, this boss fight, why is it bad? Because you get basically easier versions of him later on in the game, which is kind of big dumb. And there's dumb dogs attacking you. He's kind of easy once the dogs are dead, but it is one of the worst bosses when you go in. You just go in for the first time, and you get beat up by dogs, and this big guy coming at you with 2 axes. It's not fun. And then there's an easy strategy. Walk up the stairs, crawl along that edge, wait for the dogs to come to you, kill the dogs, and then just jump down and stab him. It's a bad boss fight. There's not really much backstory to him. He's just a dude who has a key somehow, and what's he doing up here from the demon ruins? You know? Kind of bad, doesn't make sense, but he's there, and he's coming in at last place. At 25th, we've got the Firesage Demon. Now this guy, basically get the Stray Demon, copy and paste into Demon Ruins. This, I'll explain why the Stray Demon is higher later, but this guy, he's just a copy and paste. It kinda suits where he is, but he could have been a mini boss, you know? Not a proper boss. And yeah, he's just a copy and paste, so there's not much else to say. At 24th place, we've got Ceaseless Discharge. Best. Why is he bad? Because there's a way to kill him without actually having to do anything. Just drag him back to the spawn of where you spawn into the battle, and then he falls off and dies. Worst. You don't have to do anything. It's so easy. There's not really a backstory. It's just a big demon just sitting there being lazy, and then you take some armor and he wakes up and is really mad. I have no clue what's going on there, but it's fine. And his attacks, kinda bad. He does that big fire thing which can kill you in one hit, which killed me every time during my first gameplay. Yeah, playthrough. Even with my shield up. So that was kind of annoying. So he wasn't my friend. And then you can't really do much damage to him. So he's not a good person. He's just a bad boss. 23rd, we have the Bit of Chaos. Now this guy, a tree with a frog controlling him. So you've got those big sweeping attacks. Kind of annoying. You need to be facing the direction that they're coming from to not get attacked by them or pushed by them, but you still get pushed anyway. And you can't lock on to them, so that's kind of bad. You die most of the time. The floor's randomly crumbling underneath you. The chances are you died during doing this, but it's not at the bottom because it's got a little bit of backstory. All the people in this Quelagg and that person in Blight Town and this person, they're all sisters or mothers or I don't know, related somehow, so that's why it's kind of up. But I think it's just funny how this frog is controlling it, so that's kind of funny. But also, as you've just seen, that fire spike coming up and attacking you, that's bad. That's why this boss is kind of trash, even though it's one of the 4. It's trash. At 22nd, we have Pinwheel. He is known as one of the hardest bosses in Dark Souls. And funny story, the first time I killed him, the first time I tried to kill him, I died of fall damage on the way into the area. But this boss is kind of bad because he's very weak. If you kill him before he starts duplicating, you can kill him in maybe 3 strong hits with your weapon. But when he does start duplicating, it is extremely annoying. You're going around fighting all these people, and it's just really bad. But it makes up for it, because the area before that is extremely difficult with those bone wheel skeletons. So coming into an easy boss fight kinda makes you happy. So that's kinda good. 21st place, we have the Moonlight Butterfly, or more like the random dude from Tomb of the Giants, who is somehow in Deep Root Garden Basin area. This guy, you know, if you're playing first time and you haven't got any ranged weapons, most people I'm guessing go for the knight or warrior route, where you're just sword and shield, you know, maybe a bow and an arrow, but you're not really knowing what you're doing. So you have to wait until he lands down to attack him, and I don't like this. And he's got no backstory. The area you fight him in isn't too interesting. It's just, if you have pyromancy, it's going to be an easy battle, and if you have a sword, good luck. So yeah. 20th place we have the Centipede Demon. Now this guy, he's got a little bit of backstory. He was doing some walking about when this person was not old, and then he somehow got a ring for walking on lava. So this guy is kind of good, but if they got rid of the Firesage Demon in that area and focused more on the Centipede Demon, he would be higher up the list. His attacks are kind of dumb. He just books on you. It's not too hard at all. I killed him first try on all the runs that I've done. So both times I've killed him first try. So he's kind of a disappointing boss, but you get a good ring out of it, and the backstory is a little bit tasty, so he's okay. 19th place, we've got Taurus Demon. Taurus Demon, basically a copy and paste of the bosses in Demon Ruins and put here, except the ones in Demon Ruins aren't bosses. So it's kind of like the Capra Demon battle, except this one is actually good because it's the second battle and it's kind of an easy boss to give you a taste of what's coming up. And it's kind of the first boss battle where you've got an easy cheat way of climbing up, killing the archers, and then jumping down and hitting them, getting half of his health gone. That's kind of a nice strategy, and then you have to try and run around to try and get back up there and jump down, which I really like. But it suits the area, so it does, apart from that he's a demon and somehow I got up there, but it kind of gets you ready. So that's why it's not at the bottom, but it's not amazing, so it's not at the top. So yeah. 18, we've got Seathe. Don't like Seathe at all. He's still higher up because he's one of the last 4, so he's got more backstory than a dog that has been very popular. So basically Seathe, big magic man, betrayed a few people in his time, and he's now immortal. The first battle making me angry. I didn't want to die when I fought him, but ah well. So that's what we had to deal with. And then if you realise that you can't kill him, which most people probably didn't, most people probably thought it was a ranged battle and they just weren't good enough. So they were probably shooting him with arrows and thinking, how is he not dying? And then they were bringing in their sorcery and miracles and pyromancies and pitting it all at him, and it's not working, and they're thinking, is there a ring I'm missing? Maybe there's a ring, a dragon ring that you use to fight dragons. So people are going to the end of Earth to try and find ways to try and kill this guy, when really you just need to give up and go and find another way to kill him, or just give up. And yeah, that's that boss. But on the actual boss fight, he turns around too fast, and especially trying to get the tail, that was a nightmare. I killed him first try in my first run, but trying to get the tail was a nightmare. But the battle itself, pretty easy first run through, especially after going through the long cave to get there. But all in all, a medium boss. Right, 17th place, Chaos Witch Quelagg. Now this boss, the environment you're fighting it in, not really too interesting. It's just a little circle room, a little bit of bricks, a little bit of webs and cobwebness. Nothing too interesting. But the attacks were pretty interesting. The book, the lava book, that's pretty good. It's the first boss that does that, make some of the area inaccessible. And that is what I like. And then the sword attack, it leaves a trace of fire in the air that looks amazing. And then you've got a little bit of backstory around this boss. You've got she's related to bit of chaos, daughter of chaos, Quelagg in Blighttown, the seller who sells you the pyromancies. And people have assumed that this person, Quelagg, is protecting the daughter of chaos from people because daughter of chaos is too weak to do anything. Because she's just sitting there not able to speak, or maybe she's cursed or something. You know, you can take You can take away whatever you want from that, but that's what I'm taking away from it. So that's Quelagg, most of all. Pretty hard boss, never been able to kill her first try. With people, first try. Or by myself, ever. So, hard boss. And there you go. Dead. At 16th, we've got Gravelord Nito. Now this guy is kind of annoying, but he's kind of good at the same time. So you immediately go in, you lose half your health, which I don't like. And then he hits you with these lava spiky things in the ground, which I don't like either, because there's no way to dodge them. But if you run over to him straight away at the start, there's big skeletons which come and attack you, and you don't want that. So you want to stay away from him when he's over there, and instead you want to go over here, because those lava spikies don't hit you over here, but these skeletons do, and as you can see, they're taking down all my health. So it's kind of an annoying battle. It's like Capra Demon. You've got all these side people. Don't like that, but it makes sense because the boss himself is a mixture of all these people, so it makes sense for this boss to do it. That's why I'm not complaining too much. But in terms of the battle, it's pretty good. As you can see, his attacks kill them, so that's what kind of makes up for it. Because with the Capra Demon, when he was stabbing, it wasn't killing the dogs. But yeah, and the backstory behind this guy, he's one of the 4 guys that Lord Gwyn trusted with a bit of a soul, and he looked after the catacombs and Tomb of the Giants, and did a pretty good job. But yeah, nothing too interesting about this guy. He's got his own covenant, which has got a really good sword. And yeah, that's about it. That's Gravelord Nito. At 15th, we've got the Sanctuary Guardian boss, which is basically a mixture of loads of different creatures combined into one. You've got wings, red eyes, dog, horns from a bull or a ram, and then legs. So this boss also has lightning, which is only normally associated with lords and gods in Dark Souls. So you've got Smo, Ornstein, Lord Gwyn, you know, they're your key lightning bosses. So, you know, he's on the good side, or not the abyss side, as you could say. So his purpose is guessing, well, people have guessed that his purpose is to protect Olasile from the abyss, or to stop people from going to Olasile and getting infected by the abyss, or dying by the abyss, or whatever. And that's his job, and his attacks are pretty good. There's no attacks where you're thinking, oh, that was the game's fault, like with Nito. There's no big spikes coming out of the ground that you can't dodge, and you have to be right close to him. His lightning attacks, you can dodge those. His big storm attack, you can dodge that. You just need to see it coming, because it's hard to run away from if you've got no stamina. And yeah, that's the Sanctuary Demon. 14th, we've got Stray Demon. Now this one's green because it's a good boss. And this guy, why do I like him? Because you've got the Asylum Demon, and then you kill him and you come back here and you want something a little bit different. And you've got this guy. This guy, his attacks, I like the way they're a little bit different. Not too different, but a little bit different. So it's a little bit more challenging. Instead of just a basic, the same boss with a little bit more health, a little bit more damage output, you've got this guy, a little bit different, in a different environment, but you fall down instead. And some people have speculated that the reason that he's here is a backup in case the Asylum Demon dies, so then undead people will fall down into this area and be killed by him instead, which I think is a fair point. And this guy was apparently sent here by people, or Beta Chaos and Demon Runes, to stop Undeadburg leaving here. So that's where this comes from. In 13th place, we've got the Asylum Demon. Now this guy is a really good starting boss. He's simple. He doesn't have any fancy attacks. He doesn't do anything amazing. The battleground is kind of easy. It actually reminds me of the Fanlax Demon battleground in Demon Souls, but whatever. He's got simple attacks. You know, he sits down. There's a lot of time for you to hit him. You know, he's not like Artorias or Ornstein, where he's always constantly hitting you and there's not really a chance. He gives you a chance. At 12, you've got the Bell Gargoyles. These people, the final protection before you ring the first bell. They don't want you to ring these bells. They don't want you to change what's going on. So these people, they're kind of strong. You know, they've got lightning, they've got fire, they've got all the attacks in the book, and they can fly, and they've got melee weapons. So these people really tried to not let you get past. And I like the battleground. You know, it's up on a rooftop. It's kind of risky. Two of them. There's two of them. That's good as well, because you can kill the first one and then the second one comes in, or he comes in if you're too slow, which I like. It kind of gives you a chance to do what you want. And the different attacks they've got, pretty good. The fire, the fly, the hit. It's all pretty good to make a well-rounded boss. And that's the Bell Gargoyles. At 11, we've got the Gaben Dragon. This guy has got some pretty good attacks, and he looks pretty good. It's very interesting, and it's kind of got like worn out wings and feet and a tail. But the attacks, pretty good. You've got so many. You've got the chomp, you've got the move while chomping, you've got the stand up and swing about, you've got the tail cut off, which kind of changes some of them. He flies up and then lands down. You've got so many actually, and like, this is the first boss battle that really shows you a boss with loads of different attacks. All the bosses before this are kind of, you know, small, not too hard. This guy, this is the guy that made me stop playing Dark Souls for a couple of months because it was too difficult. Even using Solaire as a helper, I had to take a break. So really challenging for your first time, but also a really fun boss to go up against. And you know, you don't really know what he's going to do next. You're flying and then bam, he's up in the air. You're hitting him, then bam, he's running at you. Or he's chomping on you, you see? I didn't know what was going on there. But still, pretty good boss. 10th place, Four Kings. Now, these guys used to be the Four Kings of New Londo, but then after a while they became hollow or a little bit undead, and Cath came up to them and gave them the option of Life Drain, which is an ability to basically drain the humanity out of someone, which you see the Dark Wraiths do with the Dark Hand. And they accepted it because they probably thought they were going hollow and wanted humanity. And then they took this and they kept wanting more and more and more humanity, and then eventually they went to the Abyss and they were like, yes, this is good, and there you go. That's why they're in the Abyss. And then the Dark Wraiths, which is the Knights of the Four Kings, they were left in New Londo with the Life Drain ability, and they're going around basically getting anyone that's left. And then a group of people, sorcerers, thought, this is getting out of hand, let's flood the place. So they flooded everyone, and the ghosts that you see in New Londo ruins are the victims of the flooding. So they had to make a tough decision: flood the place, kill a few people, but I'll save everyone in the long run. And then basically you go back and reverse that, and you're like, no, let's get rid of the water. But then you solve the problem in the end, so you're doing a pretty good job. And then about the actual battle. Now, a bad depth of field can be considered a bad thing or a good thing. It just depends how you want to see it. I think they did it on purpose. Those orbs they shoot at you, you don't really know where they are, or you don't really know where these guys are. I think that's the whole thing about the Abyss. You don't really know what's going on, so it's kind of worth it. But it's also annoying. But you have to deal with the annoying part of it, because you know you've got to do it. But after a few attempts of killing, you should hopefully know the attacks and when they're going to do certain things and how far you have to be away from them to dodge certain attacks. So that's why I really like it. And then more than 4 kings spawn in, which I like, so then you can kind of mix and match between a few, and it kind of just makes it a nice boss battle. And yeah, that's the 4 kings. Ninth, we've got Dark Sun Gwyndolin. Now my voice is starting to go here a little bit, but we'll keep going anyway. So this guy is very interesting. So he's known for, like, you know, this long corridor. It's an illusion, because at the end of the battle it all just shrinks down. So some people have said that maybe Guinevere is also an illusion. And that makes sense, because when you kill Guinevere, Anor Londo goes to nighttime. The giants disappear. The demons disappear. And guess who comes in? The Dark Moon Blade people. They come in. Now, who's in charge of the Dark Moon people? Gwyndolin. So, what can you see here? 2 separate covenants. You disobey one covenant, the other covenant comes in and sorts you out. Something's definitely going on here. So, people have said maybe Guinevere was an illusion, because as soon as you kill her, whose voice do you hear? Gwyndolin. So something's definitely going on there. And people are saying, well, what is his motivation behind doing all this then? Because he wants to keep Anor Londo a good place, because, you know, he was kind of the forgotten person of the family, as you can tell from statues around Anor Londo, or missing statues, because there's a room in Anor Londo where there's 2 statues and a missing one on the left, with Lord Gwyn in the middle, on the right Guinevere, and on the left there's a missing one. It's assumed that that should have been his, but didn't like him, so got rid of a statue. And then he always wanted to be better, to earn a right, or earn a place in Anor Londo. So what he's done is he's made it bright by putting in a fake sun, making it very nice. You know, all these fancy guards with fancy armor, demons that are really good at killing you with all this lightning power, and he's protecting the tomb of Gwyn. So that's pretty showing that he's got something going on there. But also, his feet, or snakes, are kind of come from the Duke's archives. So you've got those demon dudes, or I don't know, the people the snakes were afraid of in the Duke's archives. Those people were also snakes, and he's also, the same music plays in this as the Moonlight Butterfly's boss, which is also from the Crystal Cave. The Moonlight Butterfly's from the Crystal Cave, which is a part of Seathe's area. So maybe this guy and Seath have some sort of link, but I don't know exactly. So we don't really know. But he's also got some of the spells that the Moonlight Butterfly was using. So, you know, there's something going on there, but I don't know exactly. And yeah, the boss fight itself, now we can talk about that. A long corridor with areas to fight. It really changes your playstyle. You know, you're really relying on stamina and running and trying to dodge this, and I really like it. And yeah, that's Dark Sun Gwyndolin, a really good boss. In 8th place we've got the Iron Golem. Now, this guy has got a really good boss battle, and as you can see him before the boss battle starts. So it's kind of like his only purpose is to protect Anor Londo, which looks like a gate that's been molded over. So that's kind of strange. But I really like the boss fight of this. There's not much backstory to him. I've done some research of how to look at the Iron Golem soul, but there's not really much to say except he's the protector of Anor Londo. And the thing I like about this boss fight is there's actually a way to make it easier. So not during this boss fight, but when I done it in my second New Game Plus, there was actually a giant throwing fire boulders down on top of me while I was trying to kill this guy, and I was confused, and then I remembered that I didn't kill him, the guy up top of the top of the stairs before you go into the boss battle. There's a guy there who you can kill, who won't throw rocks on top of you when you're doing this boss fight, and I just thought that was kind of a good time. But other parts of this boss fight that I like, he gives you a chance to hit him. Nothing's really unfair apart from if he hits you off the edge, but it's still kind of your fault because you could have dodged it. You can roll between his legs, you can roll out of the way, you can get behind him and hit him. He has good attacks to stop you from killing him so quickly. As you've just seen, he's swiped behind him. He can do this attack, just punch down on the ground. He can stomp his feet, he can grab you, he can do an axe swing which goes all the way around. So it's not too challenging because it's an easy enough boss fight, but it's a really nice boss fight, and it can also fall off the edge, so that's a little bit tasty. And see, he's doing the stomp down now. That is kind of rude because if you get trapped or if you fall over, you're a goner. But this is a really nice boss fight. But at the start, he does an attack where he like moves his axe and it shoots some sort of projectile at you. I don't know what that attack was meant to do because it never hits you. It always hits that rock on the right there that you can see just above my souls. It always hits that rock. And I don't really know what's going on there. I think he does it more if you're doing a long range battle. Maybe if you're a miracle man or pyromancy or sorcery man, he'll use more long range attacks. But I really like this boss fight. It's simple enough, but it's a good boss fight, and it's like the last place you go before Anor Londo, and it suits the area, so it does. Because like some sort of knight sort of dude, not as fancy as the knights in Anor Londo, but fancy enough for the area. You know, you've just finished Sense Fortress and now you're going up against this big dude. So, that's the Iron Golem. Really good boss fight, coming in 8th place. Kalameet coming in at number 7. Now this guy, it's interesting because it's not actually a boss fight until after you've got Goth to shoot him down. So that's what I love. And so you get Goth to shoot him down. And this is Goth's the only person who talks about him in Olisale. And you get Goth to shoot him down with his bow, and really amazing. Saw a few memes come out of that, but we'll move on. And you go over, and he's got some nice attacks. He's one of the last surviving ancient dragons, and some people have theorized that maybe the Abyss has affected him because apparently some people, when the game first came out, did some mining into the data of the game, and they found another version of him, but not affected by the Abyss, and maybe people are saying that maybe it's the Abyss that's made him like this, and he was different before, and that makes sense from the different version of him. And also there's dogs just before the battle which have been changed slightly due to the Abyss, and Artorias himself, which have all been changed by the Abyss. But this dragon, I mean, he has some nice attacks. So, first of all, the area is nice and wide and big area. Kind of good for fighting a dragon. And, you know, you've got all these attacks where he flies up, he uses his eye to pick you up, and does a lot of damage, and he gives you a lot of chance to avoid them, but you need to have a good previous boss strategy history of trying to conserving your stamina so you can see what he's about to do and then dodge it, and then knowing how to turn off and on your locking onto a person ability, and all these skills you need to take to use to fight him. And I thought it was a really hard boss because also he's only half the difficulty he should be, because he's got the Calamity ring, which is close to his name, Kalameet Calamity, and that's suggesting that he's only half the difficulty that he should have been, because when you're wearing that ring you receive double damage from opponents. And I really think this guy would have been extremely difficult if he wasn't wearing that ring, because he's hard enough with that ring on, because I don't think he takes any extra damage from fire, electricity or poison, because I use those with my sword, fully standard reinforced sword, and he wasn't taking any extra damage, and that was kind of sad. But yeah, overall it's a really hard boss fight, but satisfying as well when you kill him. So that's Kalameet coming in at number 7. Number 6 we've got Priscilla, which is a boss that's in her own area, separate from Lodran, called the Painted World of Armus. Now, people have said maybe she's been forced in here into this world, and separated from everyone else, or maybe she went in here on her own will. But it's because she possesses the life drain ability, which you can see from the description of the life drain Seathe, and trust me, that's not welcome at Lodran. So she's in this world now, and what's she doing in here? Basically, she's either, you know, if she went in here herself, she's creating all the stuff, maybe, but if she was forced in, maybe these people are forced to live with her. You know, it's not really concrete information here, but she thinks it's a peaceful area until you came, so that's why she gives you the choice to leave, and it's the first place that it's the first boss fight that actually gives you an option to leave, and it's the only boss fight. So that's kind of strange. You could say the Darkman Gwyndolin one, where you need to kneel or go through, is an option, but no, that doesn't count because you don't actually go through the fog. So this boss battle is very unique in that way. Also, when she goes invisible near the start, you don't know where she is, but you actually have to use your environment around you to see which way she's going or where she is. So you look in the snow to see where her feet is, and then you attack near the feet, and you need to try and aim it so you don't get hit while you're fighting, and I think that's pretty interesting. But the attacks themselves aren't too interesting. It's just, you know, a couple of hits every so often and some spell attack, but nothing too good. And you can cut off the tail, as you've just seen, which is very good. And there's some extra damage taken from fire and stuff, but nothing too good. And yeah, that's Priscilla. At 5th, we've got Seathe, which can be found in the Darkroot Forest, and he's seen protecting the grave of Artorias, which was his master, after they did the DLC, I'm gonna say, or after they tried to take out the Abyss, but failed. So I don't know exactly how Seathe got from back then to here, but we know that he doesn't want you to get that Traverse Abyss ring, and he doesn't want you to have anything to do with this, because he actually remembers you from the DLC if you complete the DLC before fighting him. When you come here, he comes down, he sniffs you, and then he's like, howl towards the moon, and then he starts attacking you. So he still has to protect the Traverse Abyss ring, even though you saved him, which is kind of interesting. But the boss fight itself is actually pretty tough, you know. If you're very over leveled when you're fighting him, it will be a little bit easy. But the first time I did this, it was actually pretty tough because he had a lot of health. I really had to rely on stamina. That attack where he spins around twice, which you've just seen, that would drain my full stamina bar. So I'd need to try and find ways to dodge that attack or predict when it was going to happen. So the boss fight's actually pretty good. He hasn't got that many good attacks though. It's kind of simple, but you know, it's a dog swinging a sword with a little bit of nice backstory. It's pretty tasty. And towards the end of the boss fight, you know, he really gets, I'm not going to say lazy, but not able to fight you anymore. You know, he's kind of limping and he's not really jumping up and down anymore. He's just keeling over and basically ready to die. So it changes throughout. Most bosses are just, you know, they're the same throughout the entire boss fight until the end, but this boss is a little bit different, and that's why Seathe comes in at number 5. At number 4 we've got Manus, and this is going to be a really big lore one, so be ready. Okay, so Manus, he was originally a human, which was said to be worshipped by a lot of other humans back long time ago, and his grave can be found at the very bottom of Oolacile, and around his grave there's lots of like stones, and there's a big area. His grave has a big area around it, so that's how people have suspected that he was worshipped by other people. And one of the primordial serpents, which Goff said came to Oolacile and convinced the sorcerers there to look into the dark, find out more about dark, you know, all this darkness talk. And they were like, big brain idea, let's go down here. So they went exploring, torturing people, and then they found Manus at the very bottom, and they were like, we need this guy. So they got him, they put him in a cell, they lit a bonfire, and they were like, right, we're gonna keep torturing you, and then you're gonna respawn. So that was fair enough. He kept getting tortured. He was suffering. He was getting very sad, and then towards the end, the only thing that was keeping us going was the pendant, which was very, very strong sense of keeping him alive. You know, that was the only thing keeping him going. And basically one day they were beating him up, trying to get some more dark sorceries, and they were like, wait, what is this? And they found it. They took it off him, and they were like, I'm gonna break this. And when they broke that, he was so mad, he beat up the wall of the cell, ran back down to his grave, and he was just smashing everything, and he was going crazy. And then his anger and his fury basically poisoned most of Oolacile, and that's why all the people there have went crazy, and there's humanity sprites floating about wanting to beat you for no reason, and everyone is not happy. So that's all from him, which can be blamed on the primordial serpent, which convinced the sorcerers to torture these people just to get dark sorceries, to be stronger, to beat up people. So that's strange. And then when you get a bit of the broken pendant in the Duke's archives and walk over to the Darkroot Basin, he is so angry that he'll go through time with his hand to grab you and pull you back to when this time was. And then you arrive there and you're like, holy, what have I just witnessed? So you go through there, do what you need to do, and then while you're fighting him, he uses these attacks, which is like, it's just a massive crazy attack. He does like long strings of attacks. It's not one attack and then, you know, he gets up and he sits up. It's just long strings of attack, and that kind of shows his really desperation to get this pendant back from you. So he as you see from his attacks, you probably can't see them here, but he's swinging back and forth, and then he's putting his hand down. That's like very beefy attacks. And then he uses the some I don't know if it's sorcery or miracle attacks, but all those blue orbs coming to attack you, he uses those attacks. So I kind of like the boss fight. You know, you're in a wee area which is his tomb, which he's been taken up from, and then he's went back down to, so it's kind of interesting. But the boss fight's really good, and then he was trapping the Dusk of Oolacile, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But that's Manus, the father of the Abyss. At third place we've got Lord Gwyn. Now, where do you start, you might ask? From the start. So Lord Gwyn, he's sitting down there with the other lords in the underneath where the dragons are ruling, back in time. And they're all like, oh no, what do we do? And then bang, what do they find? They find soul, a big good soul. And they take that, they get big strength from the Lord Souls, and they fight the dragons, they beat them up, all these knights and lords working together, all of them working together. Not just Lord Gwyn and his knights. You know, you've got Nito there working. You've got, you know, some other people working to fight, especially the Bed of Chaos, sitting there fighting. And they're all fighting, and then they take out the dragons who they didn't like. Lord Gwyn's like, okay, I'm the best, let me build some cities. So he builds Anorlando, and then New Londo, which is basically Anorlando for the slightly lower class people, and all these areas which are really good. And he gives his most loyal people his soul, his parts of his soul. And then problems start to arise. Abyss, the dark soul causing the abyss to spread, and the primordial serpents causing issues in the land. And then, you know, the flame starts to dwindle, and the Age of Fire is starting to come to an end. And Bed of Chaos is like, yeah, we need to sort this out. So she decides, I'm going to try and fix this problem. So she's like cooking up some potions, and she's like, bang, new flame. And then it's actually a chaos flame, and it's big, not good. It's basically a portal, and all these demons are coming out, and it's, you know, it's basically so many demons that Lost Isleth can't hold them all, and they're all escaping from demon ruins and going everywhere. And Lord Gwyn's like, I will beat you up if I got my hands on you. And Bedicos is like, whoops, not my problem. All these demons are escaping. Lord Gwyn's like, Black Knights, head over there now. As you can see from the Black Knight's weapons, halberds, swords, spears. From the description you can see it's fighting the demons from demon ruins in Lost Isleth. The weapons and shields have gained like some sort of fire or chaos protection from this. So they're fighting them all. That's a problem. The Dark Abyss is a problem. All fighting against this flame, and the flame's dwindling. And Lord Gwyn is like, holy, I don't know what to do. So he's like, right, I will sacrifice myself for the flame. So he's walking over to the kiln of the first flame. He goes in and he gives up his soul, and he transfers from Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, to Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, and he becomes hollow, and he just stays there. And his tomb in Anorlando is where he used to lie. Well, is where he isn't actually lying, because he's in the kiln hollow, and he's sitting here hollow, no purpose or anything. And the boss fight, it kind of shows this. It's the end of the game, the final boss fight. It's kind of him hollowed out, you know, no purpose anymore. He's given up his soul for the flame, and he's just lying there. And that's why it's such an easy boss fight. For most people, it's a lot easier than you're expecting. It's a lot simple. You can just parry him 10 times and bam. That's Dark Souls' last boss finished, and it's kind of, you know, I like that. I like that, how that works. And the fire sword looks amazing. Even though he might be weak and he's not really fighting you much, his fire sword looks the bomb. And I wish I could use it, but I can't. So yeah, that's Lord Gwyn coming in at number 3. In second place we've got Ornstein and Smo. Now this boss fight is really, really good, because there's actually a lot of hatred from one of them to the other. Smo is very jealous of Ornstein to start off with, because Smo wanted to be a dragon slayer, one of the 4 knights of Gwyn, but he couldn't make it, so he's very jealous. And in the boss fight, if you kill Ornstein first, Smo just shrugs it off like, oh well, didn't like him anyway, and moves on like it's a normal day. But in the other way, if you kill Smo first, Ornstein is like a little bit sad for a minute, and then it's stage 2 of the boss fight. And also, when the boss fight starts, who is above Smo? Ornstein. Ornstein is up on the top floor and jumps down, so that kind of shows that he's, you know, he's higher, he's above, he's up top. Whereas Smo is just, you know, just in the hall, you know, just sitting around not doing anything. But Ornstein is up top, more important, more everything. And the actual boss fight itself is really good, because, you know, you've got this slow guy who does really strong attacks, you know, and you know, you need to be wary of him, but you've also got to be wary of the quick one who's going around moving. As you can see, there's him praying and being a little bit sad, and also stealing his power, but we won't talk about that. But Ornstein, the faster one, he's coming around, you know, lots of small, not really strong attacks, and you need to be wary of him as well. So you've got 2 people to run after. If you run to one end, then beat up Ornstein, because he's chasing you, and then Smo will slowly come over and come after you. And there's not much help in the environment. You know, you've got these pillars, which are not too much help, but they do help you sometimes. If Smo's about to hit you with his hammer, you can block him behind the pillar and stand behind it and heal up while you're waiting. Or with Ornstein, you know, if he's about to shoot a lightning bolt at you, hide behind a pillar so the bolt hits the pillar, and that's very good. But in the second stages, they both get stronger. Ornstein gets taller, as you can see from here, and Smo gets a lightning ability, you could say. And they are very strong, very strong. This is a really hard boss fight, and probably the hardest one. I haven't been able to do it solo. As you can see, I have 2 people help me here, or I think Solaire might be dead, but I had 2 people help me here, and it's extremely difficult. I nearly finished this boss fight solo once, but then I accidentally killed the wrong person first, so I couldn't get a soul that I needed. So yeah, but you know, the thing I love about this is it's not unfair at all. Everything about it is fair. So it is. There's no moments where you're like, that was my fault. You know, there's always a moment you can dodge or get out of the way or predict what they're going to do next. Even though the jumping up attack, where they jump up and then sit down, does a lot of damage, you can see that coming. You should always have a little bit of stamina ready. And that's why I love this battle, because it's just the difference that it can have. You know, you can have a big slow dude fighting you in the second half, or you can have a really fast dude who does strong attacks. So yeah, because this guy's fast in the second half and does strong attacks, so it's kind of smooth from the first half in the second half, so it kind of switches it. And that's what I love. So that's why Ornstein and Smo is coming in at second. Oh, before I finish actually, also they suit the area really well, because you've got statues of them around the place, and they are kind of these knight tier people who are very fancy. So yeah, they suit the area as well, and that is why they come in at second place. And coming in at number 1, we've got Artorias. Now, this guy had a really good boss fight. It was the first boss fight in the game that really made me change my style. For the entire game I was going block, block, block. I don't think I'd ever dodged once in a boss fight. I'd never done that before. I always relied on just standing there with my shield, they hit my shield, and that was that. I wouldn't actually dodge or jump out of the way, out of their attacks. This battle completely changed my playstyle. I was going heavy armor, heavy everything, blocking attacks, and hitting then. But this forced me to wear really light armor, really focus on stamina, always dodge, be very aggressive, but also be very dodgy. And it was just an overall amazing boss fight. Nothing is unfair about it. It's hard to predict, but it's still predictable, you know? Like, well, no, it's not predictable, it's still survivable. You know, he does this attack where he jumps and slams his sword down. He does that, and, you know, you don't know if he's going to do it twice or 4 times. You know, there's no, he doesn't do it forever, because that would be annoying, but he's just little things like that, and then he can go into a corner and get stronger, but you have to let him do that. Sometimes he'll try and back off, but you can run after him and start attacking him when he tries to do it. But that's a little bit too risky, because there's a high chance of death when you're doing that. But I like where he is, because he's not the final boss of the Abyss, but he's kind of the middle. But he is definitely harder than Manus. I fought Manus with the heavy playstyle and killed him first or second try. Artorias, I'd say close between 10 and 20, maybe 5 and 20 tries I took to beat him. He really was a challenging boss, the hardest boss in Dark Souls, and you have no help, and that's what I love. And at the start, one of those dudes comes in and he just kills him and throws him to the side, and that's strange, because he's also Abyss. That dude he kills is Abyss, so would they not be friends? Another question you could throw into the books of lore. But now we're going to focus on the lower, and then we'll go back to the boss fight later and just finish off with some more boss fight cool tips, cool things. But lower, who is Artorias? What's he doing? So Artorias, he's one of the 4 Knights of Gwyn. Who are the 4 Knights of Gwyn? We've got Goff, Kieran, Artorias himself, and then Ornstein. So Ornstein's mission was to save Princess from the Abyss, or from Ulasil. The Dusk of Ulasil, and he had a wee small doggo, Seathhe, who he had helping him. So he went out and he thought, yes, this is my mission, I'm going to go out and sort these people out. Went to Ulasil, tried to take on Manus and beat him, and didn't really go well. He was getting bogged down in the Abyss, and he couldn't really do well, and he used the power of his cleansing great shield to protect Seathhe. So when you're in the DLC and you see that yellow circle around Seathhe, that's the power of Artorias' great shield protecting him, because Artorias knew this wasn't going too well and they're not going to make it out. So he put that thing around him to protect Seath, and then somehow he got to the time where you're at now when you see Seath in Darkroot Forest. And how he died exactly is probably just losing hope and going hollow and the abyss absorbing him, and then he's an enemy to the non-abyss creatures, and then that's where you fight him in the Colosseum. And after the boss fight, one of the 4 Knights of Gwyn comes to meet him, Kieran, who's sitting there. I didn't know who that was, and I didn't give Kieran the Artorias' soul because I'm a very mean person who wanted to keep it for myself. So that was kind of sad. But also, the funny thing is, a lot of people don't actually believe that the abyss exists, as you can see from the cat in Darkroot Forest. You know, the cat says Artorias is a myth, but then you join the Covenant and the cat is like, oh yeah, we're protecting people so they don't get to the abyss. So I might be wrong, because, you know, that was a long time ago I talked to that cat, but do they want to hide this story from people? Do they not want people to know that the abyss is a scary thing that they should be aware of? I don't know. You don't know. But you are the real killer of the abyss. But I think Artorias gets the credit in the end, because no one actually knows that he lost. They're still thinking, oh, Artorias, he's still fighting. You know, they don't really know that he's a goner or not. He's just a legend now. And then you fight him, and the boss fight's amazing. And he has all that, you know, it's very, how do I describe it? Gassy appearance. Like, you can see gases around him. Parts of his soul, I'm going to say, floating around him. So it's kind of like, you know, the abyss has absorbed him and he's crazy now. So, you know, he became the thing he wanted to destroy. And that's just a sad story. And it's a nice boss fight. And it's a hard boss fight. And you really did try. He really did try to take them down, but he failed. But he still got the credit, I think, from most people. So I guess that's good. And then you can save the princess in the end. And everyone's happy at the end of the day. Even the mushroom at the start of Ulysses. So that's been all Dark Souls bosses ranked. This has been an extremely tough video to make. I've been writing down so much information on Dark Souls and doing retakes of all these bosses so many times. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't believe how many times I've had to redo these. I don't have a script, because scripts I don't like. I feel like it's better to write down what I want to say and then maybe add in my own wee things, because when I'm writing it, even if I look back over it 50 times, I won't have everything included. But if I made any mistakes or anything, make sure to put it in the comments, and then I'll fix anything in the description that I got wrong, or that maybe you have a different viewpoint on that I agree with now. So I'll put that in the description. Be ready for the King review of Dark Souls, and also thank you for watching. And yeah, that's been all Dark Souls bosses ranked. Thank you, and goodbye.